The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to a training camp kickoff edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bills season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. Doug Relosky in studio. And it's training camp.
Training camp, baby.
It's training camp. Listen, this is great. Everything's great, right?
Wednesday.
Everything's great because training camp has started. You know, we've already got season-ending injuries. We've got holdouts. We've got...
We got the coach just talking to random fans.
Chris, training camp's a weird time because I feel like there's so many things that are... Like, this is practice. Like, to quote Allen Iverson... Practice.
Talking about practice? We talking about practice.
You're talking about practice. And at the same time...
Not a game. Not a game. Practice.
You know who didn't practice? Bruce Smith. Top 2 Bill ever. Bruce Smith.
So it's one of those situations where you look at it and you say to yourself, you're like, all right, I believe that as a fan, I'm told that that this is important. And that there's certain aspects of this that I should be paying attention to. Mm-hmm. And then it's not... Like, I don't know. You watch training camp, and by the end of training camp, half of the things you went in worried about didn't matter. They either resolved themselves amicably, or it turns out they were total non-issues to begin with. Now, as we kind of launch into what the Bills' 2023 training camp is going to be, I first look around the league because people go, oh my God, things are already bad. Nyheim Hines, he's lost for the season. Oh my God, what are we going to do dropping this? Our depth. You have other fan bases who are obviously trolling because they're dickheads. I guess one of the things I look at is, Chris, because isn't that what we do here? We're petty.
Yeah.
We look around, we talk about who has it worst. As we start training camp, who on the Bills roster who matters right now is holding out? Anybody?
No one.
Bueller?
No one. Zero.
Oh, that's right. There's no one who the Bills are paying money to.
No one, yeah.
But Stefon Diggs is a problem. Let's not forget about that.
Here's what's hilarious that you say that.
Easy national media.
I'm looking at an article right now on this ProFootballNetwork.com. And all I did was Google NFL 2023 training camp holdouts. Stefon Diggs is the second player mentioned, even though he's there. He's here. He's in Buffalo. He's been showing. He had one day a month ago where there was a problem. And he's been there ever since. And everyone goes, wow, he's one of the second biggest concerns in the NFL. Second biggest concern in the NFL?
People like to create problems and drama where there's not.
Meanwhile, you have teams who are incredibly running back dependent. I'm talking about the Giants. I'm talking about the Raiders. The Raiders. Dude, you know what's funny about Berman?
It's like the wrestlers. What a rush.
So the thing about Berman is that Berman down the stretch just became a caricature of himself. Mm-hmm. Like, when he was in his prime, he was amazing. And then it's almost like he's the guy who he was like the guy who started like wearing his college Letterman jacket to the bar when he's like 40.
Can I give you a Chris Berman real quick story?
Sure.
When he was here, you know why he loved covering the Bills in the 90s?
Why?
He would send his assistant to Fort Erie to a pharmacy and get deals. Do you know what those are? They're called 222s. Do you know what they are?
No.
They only sell them in Canada. They're Tylenol, okay, with codeine. And you can only get them in Canada. And I remember him being interviewed in like 1996. He got an interview and said, oh, yeah. He goes, we'd send the assistant over. He goes, he'd get me the dues. That's what they're called. They're called 222s. And he would say it in his stupid accent. And he goes, I love coming to Buffalo. He goes, those dues. They help me sleep, man. I'm like, oh, cool, you drug addict. Thanks. Good story.
Oh, good. Wonderful. But either way, like there are like when you think of like some of his highlight reel calls for running backs, some of these teams whose running backs are holding out, like think about the Cowboys. You have a problem with Tony Pollard.
Yeah, he broke his leg late in the season.
Well, and then the problem is that you let Zeke Elliott go, and then he's like, well, wait a minute, I'm not signing a thing. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, no, we have a deal for you. And he was like, nah, fuck you.
Right.
No, I don't have to sign that deal. And now they're just at this weird impasse. You've got Saquon Barkley, who's like, nah, man, I am the Giants.
When you publicly come out and say, you know what, maybe I should sit out. When you publicly come out and say that, you the man for that team.
Josh Jacobs? Chris, I got him in the 5th round in fantasy last year. What, 1,600 rushing yards?
If he had absolutely fantastic year, and all he's going to do is help Garoppolo, who just passed his physical.
Thank God.
He did pass his physical. I saw that.
Chris, let me get this straight. You have a lame quarterback. A quarterback who's basically Glass Joe from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. You have that guy. And you go, you know what we're going to do is we're going to play hardball with the running back.
You know who he is? He's our 2006 Hendrik Tallinder. Mr. Glass.
What a reference.
That's who he is.
How about Chris Jones not showing up for training camp?
Guys
and
went
Andy Reid goes...
Far apart.
And Andy Reid goes, well, I'm actually surprised he's not here. What do you mean he's just... In the hierarchy of defensive tackles in today's football...
Top 3.
It's Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, it's Chris Jones. Who else? Who do you put in that conversation?
Quinnen Williams. Unfortunately, they're both in our division. Quinnen Williams is in that conversation 100%. Okay. And that piece of shit Wilkins. He's in the conversation. He is an excellent defensive tackle. He is. He's disruptive. He gets pressures, and he gets the stats. You just mentioned 3 dudes.
And he's the only guy to really get under Josh Allen's skin enough that he created a beef.
There's 32 teams, right? The majority of them have... Not many teams play the 3-4 anymore and have the normal nose tackle. So the majority of teams have 2 defensive tackles. You just named 3, and we got to face 2 of them.
Yeah, that does
twice
suck.
A year. And those guys are... I'm not saying Ed Oliver is not that. He's average, but you imagine having one of those guys? So, yeah, Chris Jones, 2 Super Bowls, and now you're not paying him?
And this is the thing where he's going, no, I did the thing. Like, it's all... We already know, like, Pat Mahomes has already talked to the team about restructuring his contract. If Pat Mahomes is doing that, how do you think the other guys who aren't getting paid $500 million contracts are feeling? Mm-hmm. They're going, hey, man, I did the thing. I got you 2 Super Bowls. Now it's time to fucking pay me.
Right.
Because I'm still in my prime and I can do some damage.
What, Chris, what is he, 30? 31?
Can you give that a Google real quick?
What's Jones?
Defensive tackle Chris Jones.
He's got to be 30. Because he came after Kelsey. What's Kelsey, 34 or 33? Kelsey's like 34, 33.
Chris Jones is 29 years old in 28 days.
So what? All right, so let's be business aspect of this. Let's say you give Chris Jones a 4-year deal. You're still getting Pro Bowl Chris Jones for 2 out of the 4, right? Mm-hmm. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's
You're
fair.
getting him off for 29 and off through his entire year of 30, right?
The thing I love is that we don't have to worry about it.
No, we don't.
We don't have to worry about this. Our players are all in the tent. Everyone's here. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't see eye to eye with some of the way things are going, everyone is here. What does Sean McDermott say? Availability is the best ability.
Absolutely.
So
I don't want to hear about anything else. Look at us when we were little. Those Bills went to 4 Super Bowls. Remember what they were called? The media called them? Mm-hmm. What was it? The bickering Bills? Mm-hmm. I don't care.
What I want is some guys who give a shit about winning.
Absolutely.
So with that in mind, we look at the kickoff of training camp. We are missing some of the drama that other teams have. And there's another thing that it hasn't become an issue yet, probably because the team doesn't want to push the issue. But, Chris, all that money that Aaron Rodgers is set to make next year, the Jets have to do something with it. Mm-hmm. Next year's cap, it's $100 million.
If you think for 1 minute that dude is playing next year, you are crazy.
Chris.
Yeah.
$100 million cap hit for one player.
One player.
Who is this?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Is there one player in the NFL?
He restructured his contract to facilitate the trade, but all it did was shove the rest of his money to the end of his contract.
Is there one player, any position in the NFL you would pay $100 million for one season?
Well, here's the best part. His contract this year is only worth $1.3 million.
Correct. That's why all their eggs are in this basket this year.
Chris, what happens next? What happens next when they go, hey, but if that was the case, then you'd think they'd use that cap space to go out and swing for the fences with a DeAndre Hopkins to add to the wide receiver.
No, they
would try to get they're trying to get Dalvin Cook apparently.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense because they saw what Breece Hall was and what their offense was when they had Breece Hall, and they know he's coming off an ACL tear. So even if he feels great, you're not going to be the same player. The only player I've ever seen in my lifetime come back ACL tear at the running back position and be the same guy was Adrian Peterson.
See, I've seen two. I've seen, and this is going back a little bit, I've seen Frank Gore.
That's true.
Both.
That's true. Frank Gore was
and Willis and McGahee. That leg injury.
All right, I'll give you that. Although McGahee didn't get a lot of run his first year in the NFL.
That's the thing. It does not. We watched it with Trey White, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen super quick. 9 out of 10 times, these guys got to take their time.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And then you look at that. How many key players on the Bills are coming back from a serious injury besides Von Miller?
No one.
Von Miller obviously matters.
Huge.
If you're talking about being a Super Bowl contender.
Mm-hmm.
But we already understand. First of all, he's already done this before. Yes, he is long in the tooth. But he's rehabbed this injury before. Mm-hmm. He understands it. The team made a move to mitigate the fact that they don't have him early on.
Leonard Floyd.
They said, we're going to go get another pass rusher just so we don't have to rush him back. Yeah. And that he doesn't feel like he's under any pressure to come back quicker than he has to. And here's a guy who wants to be here because he goes, that's a team I can win a Super Bowl with. When Von Miller comes back, all three are healthy. Rousseau, Floyd, Miller.
Disgusting.
You throw in Epinesa, maybe he's got a little upside left as a pass rusher.
Shaq, Boogie.
What is that? Chris, can you give me the R lads?
Yeah.
The old R lads.
You know. You think there's any chance that Miller doesn't start the season on the PUP list?
Oh, not a chance. He's going to start.
Yeah, I think
he absolutely will.
Is that 6 weeks or 4?
6. Although, Chris, has that changed?
For what?
The PUP list. Did they make it 4 weeks?
Is it 4 or 6? I know it was 6 last year, but is it 4 to 6? Like, can you activate them after week 4?
PUP rules, NFL. All right, here we go. So, what we're talking about this is just this concept that they don't have to rush him back because they found a way to build depth.
Go back up, Chris.
At all the places.
One more.
It's all the important roster cutdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. There it is. This is
active PUP list. Players placed on this list during training camp and count towards a 90-man roster. Players can be moved from the list at any time during camp, but can't be placed back on the list. Final roster cutdowns must be placed on reserve PUP, released, traded, counted against the 50-man roster. So you can put them on the PUP list. Okay, here we go.
It says, yeah.
Teams must decide by the 53-man roster cutdown deadline, which is August 30th, whether to place the player on the list. Players placed on this list at that time must miss at least the team's first 4 games, down from 6 in seasons prior.
So it says at least, so it's 4 to 6.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
So 4 to 6 weeks, that seems reasonable, Chris, if he's already doing the type of activity we see him doing.
Yeah,
right?
he's on that all day because think about it.
But even then, do you activate him and then you cut somebody and then you make him a healthy scratch for the first week or two the way they did Trey White?
You let him because you don't do that because for the Bills are one of the few teams, like we've talked about multiple times on your podcast, they rotate 8 guys defensively on that line up front. You know what I mean? And think about it. You have 2 out of those first 4 weeks, you have 2 division games. Okay? That first game, Breece Hall ain't running the ball 30 times that first week.
I hope he does.
He ain't, though. Right?
I hope they're dumb enough to do it.
After today, with Tyreek Hill settling that Marina incident, remember, it's his second time. Didn't he? I don't want to. I'm never gonna put bad juju on people. But didn't Tyreek Hill like 3-4 years ago have a domestic incident?
Guys,
and he was suspended.
You see, you want to talk about him possibly getting suspended. Here's what I'll say: he's a star. We've all. It's gross, but we've all had to live with this reality that when you're an NFL star, You can beat up your wife and allegedly injure your child and allegedly slap a guy at a marina, and you can allegedly be one of the biggest pieces of shit on earth. It doesn't matter. If you are a star, child abuse investigation.
2019.
I'll tell you what, in Wikipedia, it's never going to show up under my name. All it's going to show up is the arson case that inevitably takes me down.
He wasn't. Look at that. He wasn't suspended.
Nope. And this is my point. These guys live in a different class from every other player. You just talked about a guy who got suspended for gambling. There is a conversation you and I are going to get drunk and have on a podcast in a couple weeks about gambling. Once we've seen all, because I've heard it teased that there's about 5 more guys who they are finalizing the investigations on who are going to get suspended by the end of training camp for gambling. And we're going to sit here and have a conversation about all of these guys and their stature with the team and whether or not the league would actually make a move to blast a guy for a year if he was a star.
So, okay. So, what, I mean.
So, it's the same thing on this side. If he's a star, they're going to let you shine and they don't give a fuck what you did. Right? And it's gross, and it's one of those things we have to kind of accept as we watch the game of football. It's frustrating to me. But also, to quote, what is it, the late Charlie Murphy, you don't slap a man. Even when slapping was fashionable, there was a gunfight afterwards. Somebody had to go.
Charlie Murphy, Brother Darkness, ladies and gentlemen.
You don't slap a man. Point blank and period. So I get what you're saying. Those early games, like you got 2 division games, the slate gets ugly late in the season for Buffalo, which is why I think you need Miller
late.
Ramped up late.
Absolutely.
I don't need to see him before November. No. I think I could get through all of October without him.
You got Washington, you got the Raiders, you got a not combined Jets team first week.
The
you know
maybe
what I mean?
Saquon Barkley-less.
Right.
Chris, how great do you think? I think it would be an interesting litmus test. The Giants have to come in here with no Saquon Barkley. Early in the season, he's still holding out. You don't have a running back who can do the things he does. Okay, now what? What's your offense there, Daboll? Is Daniel Jones still the workhorse?
Chris, you watch
it? You guys paid $40 million.
You watch enough football. No Saquon that game, and I believe it's October
20.
Yeah.
He scores a
no Saquon that game. What's the spread?
He powers the first rushing touchdown.
6.5.
I think it's over a touchdown if no.
Chris
Saquon
has
plays.
multiple gifts of me from that game. Because Saquon Barkley and just marched down the field. It was all Barkley. Barkley touchdown, and then Josh Allen and the Bills ran away with the game.
That was in New York.
That was in New York.
That was when we started the season, Jets, Giants on the road. Mm-hmm. So we stayed at the Meadowlands.
And then we announced ourselves the king of New York and New Jersey.
That's right. Well, there's only one team in New York. Remember
there is only one. So I look at this and I say to myself, we don't have any issues. We don't have this lingering cloud. So now what do we have? Where does the juice come from in this training camp? Chris, people are piling on. You saw the way tickets went.
Yeah.
Fans want to be there to watch practice. And in my head, I go, it was more interesting when I had sideline passes in 2017 or when I had media credentials because it was like, holy shit, this is a new coach. There's new, what's his face? Who was the coach from the, he was one of my favorite D-line coaches of all time, and now his name's escaping me. I think it's a whiskey. But he had coached, he was on the Bills, and he had coached one of the players previously in his career. 2017, look at Bill's coaching stats.
Was he the dude with the different skin colors?
No.
He was.
You know what I'm talking about?
He was an old man.
Yeah, he did 1 year in Buffalo and then retired.
He had Arlie Ermy.
It's Mike something.
He gave me like Arlie Ermy fucking vibes. Well, what do we have for a D-line coach? No. Mike Waffle.
Yes, Mike Waffle.
Mike Waffle was a bad dude. And you watch some of like the Hard Knock stuff with him?
Yeah.
He coached like a bad dude. So I remember getting to interview some of the players and them talking about how, no, Coach Waffle is crazy. I go, no, he's the man, though. This D-line is going to be great. And everyone goes, why are you fired up about the performance of a bunch of guys who couldn't make most teams' rosters? You got to think back. Remember what our pared down defensive roster was that year in 2017? It's like Eddie Yarbrough was rotating. Eddie Yarbrough was a guy who was getting 40% of the snaps in a given game. Have you ever heard of him again since?
No, he played in North Carolina, though. I know that.
So, I guess the idea is that that was fun. It was exciting. It was new. You're like, holy shit, you're bringing in guys who are badasses as coaches.
What was the wide receiver we had from Alabama, the walk-on, that year?
Foster.
That's it. Ruben, was it? No.
Robert Foster.
We had a
Tide.
Reuben Foster on the team, right?
Yeah.
Well, we should have.
We
should have. If you listen to Drew Gear's draft prognostications, we should have drafted Reuben Foster instead of Trey White.
Roll Tide. Fuck the Tide.
So this is the thing. Like, there was juice.
Look at him. Oh, that's great.
Oh, God.
Good for him, man.
He plays for the Maulers.
He plays for the Pittsburgh Maulers
Pittsburgh
right now.
Maulers. Good for him. That's awesome.
Hey, guys,
what do you do for a living? I play for the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Tell me you wouldn't have rather had him than Trey White. What an
this is
idiot.
so
what an
great.
idiot I am. So, with that in mind, we don't have any dark clouds of this, but there's also no juice. There's no mystery to this. We know who the starting quarterback is. The wide receiver depth chart's pretty much set. I mean, you know who's making the roster and who's not. I mean, Chris, let's roll it down. Coulter, Desmond Patman, Tyrell Shavers, Bryant. I don't give a fuck who any of these guys are. Get out of here. Keyshawn Johnson, you're done. It's the 6 at the top of the chart. That's it. Khalil Shakir's the last one in, but it doesn't matter because he's the last man in. But he's now, as we talked about in our last podcast, he's going to get in on the technicality that they need somebody to groom as a kick returner and punt.
Yeah, 100% he's on this
So
roster.
sure, wonderful. Also, what they invested him in draft capital, they're not going to cut bait that quickly.
Right.
So there's your 6. Maybe you keep a couple of these guys for the practice squad, and if you want to sit here and waste my time with a fucking discussion about the practice squad, I would rather, and now I say this with all due respect, I would rather listen to Chris read all of the reviews from Rotten Tomatoes of the movies he's never fucking seen, but should have. Like Goodfellas. Dog, do you know he hasn't seen a single gangster flick?
Chris,
I've seen The Italian Job with Mark Wahlberg.
Wait, you've seen The Italian Job, but you haven't seen Goodfellas?
Yeah.
You've never sat down, taken the minute, and seen Goodfellas?
There's another good FBI movie that I've seen, came out in 94. It's called Coneheads.
Listen, man. My favorite part of Coneheads is when he eats the whole box of Eggos for breakfast. When Sinbad Reed does he gets his teeth done and gives him his new ID. And remember, they're sitting at the bar, and Adam Sandler's there. Hey, how you doing? Are you good? Listen, this is who you are. And he goes like that. I love that stuff. I cannot believe you've never seen Goodfellas. Have you seen The Sopranos?
No.
Never seen a Bronx
Have
Tale?
you seen dude with Jazz Palminteri? You never seen a Bronx Tale?
Nope.
With Sonny?
See, this is what I live
Cologino?
with. This is what I live with, dog.
You've never seen a bunch of bikers walk into the bar
And
and,
just
then
get
he comes
fucked up?
back and goes like this. Now you can't leave.
Bikers in a bar, you know what I've seen? Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I've seen that.
I thought he was going to say, what's that movie where Martin Lawrence and Tim Allen are the bikers? You know what movie I'm talking
Wild
about?
Hogs.
Wild Hogs.
I watch
That
that
I've
movie.
seen.
I watch that movie once a year. It's on. So I have a bunch of movies that I only watch when I'm hungover. That's one of them.
You've seen Wild Hogs, but you haven't seen a Bronx Tale.
No, fun fact. You ready for this? Fun fact. Wild Hogs, William H. Macy.
Yep.
He is in My Family Tree.
Holy fuck.
Real life Ned Flanders is in My Family Tree.
Oh my god.
Do you know what my favorite movie is of him all time?
Wild Hogs,
No. Not Wild Hogs.
It's the only one Chris knows.
No, man.
Pleasantville.
Nope, come on. It's got Mark Wahlberg in it.
Was it one of his music videos?
No, it's got Mark Wahlberg in it. He plays the porn star. Come on.
I have no
He's
idea.
never seen Boogie Nights.
You've never seen Boogie Nights either? So if I go to you, Dirk Diggler, which was the next thing out of my mouth, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Nope.
Oh, my God.
This is what I deal with.
Dude.
What was the thing you'd call me for the Mohawk?
Oh my god. I had a thing and he didn't get the reference. And so I was like, how many more can I come up with?
I don't. Well,
Have you
what was
seen The Godfather?
no?
I gotta go. I have to go. I don't. I have to go. You've never seen The Godfather, bro.
No.
What?
So just as scarce as the movies he can critique are the storylines here you can criticize for the Buffalo Bills going into training camp. There is very little mystery left to this roster, and at the same time, we all have some level of interest, right? We're all going to listen, we're going to watch. So the question is, what are we looking for? I guess for me personally, to start this thing off, one of the things that stands out to me about this roster and just the things that don't seem to fit, which seems like there's some volatility there, is the presence of O'Cyrus Torrence on this roster when you're labeling him as a backup to Ryan Bates.
No, I think that's just out of respect, and I think what I truly believe McDermott and B when they say that they earn their positions, players earn their positions. You know what I mean? But that's like one of the 3 points of the main 3 points, and I'm glad that you went offensive line first. If we come out of camp and Bates and Botker are the backups, you're doing extremely well at depth on your offensive line. You are. You don't have a bunch of fifth-round rookies as the backups. You have players that have started multiple playoff games and multiple seasons with you, and that's what I want.
So Roger Saffold and Ryan Bates at the guard spots, it was them and Deion Dawkins for the most blocking downs played last year in a Bills uniform. They were 2 of the most mediocre blockers in the NFL.
That's why I think you need to have the...
So when I look at this and I go, where is there some volatility? It's like, there's just an assumption based on his contract that Bates is going to be here. Sure. Now, that doesn't mean... But it could be that they see him as like, hey, we don't like Greg Manns as the only guy who can play backup center.
Right.
We'll let you be the swing guard / center. And then next year when Mitch Morse retires,
You're starting center.
you're going to be our starting center because you've already done it and he trusts you.
And he's still under contract. After this year, he's still under contract
and now
for another
you become
2.
one of the cheapest centers in football. And at the same time, we could have a high-end guard option if the cards fall that way.
Right.
In that way, I'm going to be looking for O'Cyrus Torrence to really grab that position. I'm going to be interested in where he takes his snaps, whether it's left guard or right guard, because I'll tell you what, if they decide that he's more of a left guard fit, he has a tougher path to seeing snaps. Connor McGovern has been pretty durable over the course of his career. He's done pretty well. He's primarily only played that spot. Now, if it's him and Bates battling for that other guard spot at right guard, I have more belief in him there. I think that that's a competition. Now, there's not a lot of competition to be had in this roster. That's a place where you can find it, right?
True. But you also have to think about what Torrance is highly rated at.
Well, and this
He
is where
is
it plays
highly
into the
rated.
philosophy of what you want to be as a football
He's
team.
highly rated for run blocking.
Sure. And he won as a pass blocker in college because he was just so big.
He's a monster.
And he was physical enough that it was hard to get around him. So as you're trying to break that down, you're saying, I'm gonna take the athleticism of Bates, but the inability to really facilitate a run game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to ask Torrance to pull.
No,
you're going to ask for him to be a road grader.
and go destroy human beings.
But if you're putting a guy like that, and here's where I question this, Spencer Brown. How much of what happens with Torrance hinges on the success of Spencer Brown? Do they trust putting a rookie next to a guy who basically has a prove-it year in front of him? Like, he has to step up and prove that last year was an injury-fueled aberration.
Especially with a quarterback who likes to roll to his right a lot.
Well, that's it. Teams were constantly collapsing the right side of our offensive formation. They'd motion James Cook over there, and it wouldn't fucking matter because he's terrible at run blocking. So they could put our quarterback in disadvantageous situations by default. What I'd like to see is them do more of this. I don't know. I want you to build up that right side and make it a strength. Now, maybe you do that by saying, listen, Spencer Brown, we're not going to ask you to pull. We're not going to ask you to do fancy things anymore. What we want you to do is just be big and maul that guy. Because now you've got a guy off your shoulder who can also maul. And if that works, I'm going to call them the Bash Brothers.
Yeah.
Chris, you know them. Here's a movie you know. Mighty Ducks.
That movie sucks.
Yeah, of course it does. But you know
I hate both of you.
But you know it. So, they could be the Bash Brothers. And if they were really good at just that, like, hey, go maul those guys in front of you and climb to the second level.
You know how much college football I watch, right?
Yeah.
Just his college game and his Senior Bowl week. Torrance is an upgrade of what we have at the guard position.
So, I want to see that translate to the practice field. Because that's the thing. It doesn't matter. Once the pads go on, and here's the worst part, Chris, the snaps are going to go, and they're going to say, well, Bates is slotted in first. Of course he will be. Right. Torrance is going to be slotted second team. He's going to be out there with the second line. But when the pads go on and real contact gets introduced, real contact, that's where I'm going to start looking for Osiris Torrance's name.
Absolutely. When he just goes and he's just, a man amongst boys, and he is just with his 330-pound frame just destroying people.
But also, he's going up against a great group of D tackles.
Which is only going to make him better. That's what I don't want to hear the first week of training camp. If Torrance is getting his butt handed to him.
That's it.
I don't want to hear it. This defensive line group, not only has the majority of it been together, they got better. Yep. With your Puna Fords and stuff like that. You got better. You've upgraded at that position. All they're going to do is make that kid better. I don't care if he struggles, and that's what I'd be doing if I was the coach. I'd be like, hey, you're going versus the top 5.
Well, and this is where you hope that the defensive line coach has that dialed in, and that he has that relationship, and he can build that throughout the course of, like, that's what I care about, is the development of that player throughout this process. Your offensive line coach, your defensive line coach, getting together and being like, listen, kid, I coach my guys hard. My guys are all pros. These guys are multi-year veterans. There isn't a rookie in this room.
They're making you better.
You're going to learn from this. And then the line coach takes you aside and goes, he's not lying. Like, this is what you're dealing with. Like, this is it. It's us versus them. They have your number because they've done this more.
I think you have to have some a real conversation to it. Like, hey, man, I get it.
I want to see, because, Chris, how many offensive linemen has this coaching staff developed from the ground up?
Dawkins.
Two.
Dawkins.
No, 2. Brown, 2. I'll give Brown some slack because of his back injury.
Okay.
We know people who are that big. You imagine if your back
Wyatt
went out
Teller.
Okay, Wyatt Teller. Jesus Christ.
That's just a bad move, though. That's just a bum rep. Like, that's all.
Also, can we talk switching sides of the ball? Defensive. That middle linebacker thing is the thing everybody's hitting on.
No.
I'll tell you this. I don't think it fucking matters. Chris, you and I did the podcast where I read off all the reasons that I think that middle linebacker isn't as big of a deal. Like, you're overthinking it almost.
I don't care.
People go, oh my god, we don't have a. Well, people go, oh my god, we don't have a star. No, you don't.
No, what we're getting is Glenn Jacobs as Diesel.
Yes,
we're not getting the real Diesel. We're getting Glenn Jacobs as Diesel.
Or it's that dude from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Hey, how you doing? I'm Donovan McNabb. No, you're not.
This is what we've come down to. It's all I can think of is the movie Full Metal Jacket when the guy goes, all right, gentlemen, it's a giant shit sandwich, and we're all going to have to take a bite.
Yep.
There isn't anything to rave about when it comes to the linebacker position. We have one All-Pro, and we have a bunch of also-rans, and I don't even know what the fucks.
We have 4. Okay, let's see what we got.
I mean, Chris, if you look at this, right here, Matt Milano, Dorian Williams, something called Travin Howard, Tyler Matakevich, who never
he'll be
will
special
take
teams.
a step, a Balin Spector, and when your GM goes, well, Balin Spector might be the guy. Right there, I go, oh no, so you're not doing this at all. You're pivoting, and you're just trying to make us think and everyone else think that you actually think that.
I'm okay with AJ Klein for a year.
Not in middle linebacker.
What's the problem?
Here's where I think this gets interesting. What do they show you in training camp? Does any one of these guys, first of all, does any one of these guys step forward and take the job?
I hope so.
Tyrell Dodson is going to, I'm calling my shot right now, is going to start with the ones. He will. He'll get most of the runs. If you're attending training camp, feel free to fact check me.
Okay.
Tyrell Dodson is going to be your guy with the ones to start the first week or two. They'll mix Terrell Bernard in. because he's their third-round pick. They got to give him a shot to see what they have.
Coverage specialist, by the way, if you watched him in college at Baylor. Coverage specialist.
Well, he was a weak side linebacker prototype.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's confusing to see him now like slotted in as a potential middle linebacker.
His coverage skills, though, like if you go back and watch his
and
college
that's okay.
tape, it's fantastic.
Because realistically, that's what you live and die by in today's NFL, especially with the defensive tackle group we've built here. So I'm not worried about who. What I'm looking at is here's how it's going to go. It's going to be Terrell Dodson and people will bitch. You can ignore that. Then Terrell Bernard's going to get mixed in. They'll bitch about that too. Klein will get his... Chris, what team do you think Klein starts on?
AJ Klein.
He's got to be third team, right? There's no
sideline team. Is that a thing?
So I wish. I don't know why he's here.
Listen, man. I'll just give you one as an example.
He's here for a paycheck.
Did you watch that Thanksgiving game? He had an excellent game. He did. He had like 8 tackles. He had 2 for losses. He really did. He knows his stuff. Like, I don't think that having him on the roster is a bad thing. And I think 100% he is on this roster.
Right now, it's not a bad thing.
I really do. I think
come the 53-man cutdown, we're gonna have some very different conversations.
See, I think he's on this team. I do.
Do you want to put a Seagrams on it?
I'll do a Seagrams on that. Sure.
Fuck yeah.
Deal. I'll do a Seagrams on it.
What is it?
Remember, you got it.
AJ Klein makes the final 53.
AJ makes the final 53. Here's the thing you got to understand, though, too. Remember, the practice squad expanded. Okay?
Sure, but I don't care.
Remember
final
now,
53.
I know, but I'm just saying, the practice squad expanded. So when Balin Spector gets cut, no one's taking him on their 53.
You don't know that.
No one's taking him on their 53. He will be on this team as a practice squad guy. And they will keep these guys for the time being because, remember, you're going to have your Von Miller who's on a PUP. You don't have to make an extra spot for a Matt Barkley because you can carry now the third quarterback as an emergency person. So technically, they have bumped it up to 54. They technically have. So you have to think about that. And you need to think about who's making these decisions. The man who's making these decisions is a defensive-minded coach.
Okay, fair.
I understand that we are going for offense and everything like that.
Chris, scroll down here on the depth chart.
We're still there for defensive-minded.
So now, here's the other thing I'm thinking, because that's a good point, and he probably is going to skew that way a little bit when he takes into account the roster. I just look at that defensive end group, right? Like that's if there's anything, Chris, if there's an actual battle to be had, it's got to be D end, isn't it?
The D ends on this team and the defensive tackles on this team, which how much depth there is.
Look at Poona Ford was signed the day that they found out. They were like, okay, well, the draft ended. We didn't get what we wanted. Poona Ford's going to be here like 72 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, when you look at this now, guys like Jordan Phillips being slotted as a potential third stringer, that should make you feel good as a fan, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I'm looking at that depth right now, specifically in the middle, the interior defensive line. Dude,
it's gross.
Drew, do you know who I think has a chance to make the team?
Who?
Your boy.
Who?
Your undrafted DJ Dale. When I watch his game film, specifically when he came first out and started as a true freshman for a Nick Saban team in Alabama.
You don't have to tell me.
When you watch, like, Chris, do you know who DJ Dale is?
He
goes as that DJ Khaled? That's how he wrote that song.
Sounds like somebody that hangs out at Cowboys on Chippewa.
He was a true freshman defensive tackle that started at Alabama for Nick Saban. That does not happen under Nick Saban, okay? Rare. Then he, fell off the wayside a little bit with some good players in there. This dude, for being our walk-on, he is our new Levi Wallace.
So is he the one? So I was going to go around the table before we wrap this part of the conversation. I was going to go around the table. When you think about the depth options, because there's other storylines. There's Taylor Rapp in his usage. I'm going to be watching to see how the team uses him. just to see if that skews, because first of all, I think he's going to be used and he's going to see a lot early, because Chris, you don't want Jordan Porter and Micah Hyde out there, do you?
No.
No.
I
Not in the
guarantee you
preseason.
those two guys are going to see limited reps.
Not till week 1.
They'll be out there, they'll do the warm-ups, and then it'll be Taylor Rapp, and it'll be because they don't need the run-up.
No.
Rapp is going to get thrown into the fire. So realistically, you're not going to see a lot. All these people who go, "Oh, it's a battle to see." No, it's not. Literally, I won't be shocked if Taylor Rapp and Dean Marlowe are your safety 1 and safety 2 on the first rotation throughout most of training camp, and then they mix Poyer and Hyde in, because at this point, those guys are too old, have been too beaten up, and you don't want to risk anything at this stage.
Nothing. And look what happened to both of them in training camp.
Yeah, just get them in and get them healthy, let it happen. Then you talk about this idea of, okay, well, if the safety position doesn't really have that much intrigue, there's the linebacker thing, but we've already touched on that. Like Dorian Williams, our GM called him a special teamer. Awesome. Hilarious. And then defensive tackle. I mean, defensive end. There's some juice there. Which one of these guys? That's the battle. Who's going to fight for their job? It's Shaq Lawson, it's Boogie Basham, and it's AJ Epinesa.
One of them
you
is gonna
getting
be
traded.
cut.
Oh, no, not cut. One of you is getting traded because Brandon Beane has found a way to do it every single season of his entire career here, except for the COVID year where they didn't make you cut.
Who did we trade to Carolina who I liked? Was it Eddie Yarborough? No. Johnson.
Daryl Johnson.
Daryl Johnson. Yeah, that's it.
He has
pterodactyl.
found a way to offload the guy, a lot of times linemen, offensive, defensive, who he doesn't have a use for and somebody else might. That's it. He finds a home for an asset. So with that in mind, this is where, because Leonard Floyd's here, Von Miller's here, Greg Rousseau is here.
Ain't going anywhere.
Now it's Lawson, Basham, it's Epinesa. Like, that's the juice of training camp. Just those guys.
Yeah.
Who shows out and who shows up?
What about Shane Ray, man?
Shane Ray!
What about Shane Ray, man? Chris, you going to get a Shane Ray jersey?
Call me
No.
7 years
Ah,
ago.
man.
I would have gotten excited 7 years ago. All right. So with that in mind, the last piece of intrigue is how this special teams group that's seen some upheaval in the last couple days and the last couple weeks, when you think about what the makeup of it has been, how that comes into form. Which is what we close the show with here tonight for you guys. And so with that, we bring in Bill's special teamer, Reid. Let's talk a little bit about 2023. 2023 is a big year for you. You know, you're kind of one of the elder statesmen in the special teams locker room. You know, there's obviously been some shifting things going on, especially like we all just learned today. It's a very shifting landscape. But also, I think one of the things people have lost sight of is there's been some guys who were veteran mainstays of the special teams unit who have left the football team. And so in that way, do you feel any need to take on a bigger leadership role this year?
I mean, great question. And first off, thanks for having me on, as always. Second off, great shirt. Much appreciated.
That's right, baby. The Grills Mafia. We represent over here.
That's right. No, but to answer your question, I think, definitely over the past couple of years, I think kind of when I first started getting voted in as a team captain is kind of when I started to take the leadership role a little more seriously, obviously, than my first couple of years. But, I mean, definitely being the longest tenured guy on the team right now, there definitely is a part of my game and a part of the way that I carry myself that does lean into teaching, trying to bring those younger guys along more than I used to, trying to talk on a deeper level scheme-wise, for some of the punt stuff, punt return, even field goal stuff with some of the guys that I don't talk to, that I used to not talk to a bunch. Some of the courts, some of the guys, the fourth, fifth linebacker guys, some of those dudes that are those guys are around me the most, and kind of building that they've, Tyler Matakevich, Reggie Gilliam, AJ Klein, some of those guys have been here for multiple years now, and those guys have been my right hand men, especially on the punt team. building. I think the leadership aspect is not only bringing along those young guys and the rookies as part of the special teams room. It's taking my relationships with the older guys to a new level, because everybody's going to play a part, as we've seen the past couple of years with injuries. I mean, you look at week 3 last year, we had guys that probably made the P squad and said, okay, I'm the 16th guy on the P squad. I'm the 69th or 70th guy on the roster. And they're strapping up for week 3 in Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So making sure those guys understand what they're getting, mentally, what they're getting themselves into. And then on the flip side, raising the ceiling with the guys that I already have a rapport with.
Do you guys feel any pressure coming into 2023? Just knowing how the last couple seasons have gone and what they could have been, is there any feeling like, hey, there's some urgency here to try to, hey, if we're ever going to do this thing, let's make it here and now? Is there any of that? Because I know that the fan base kind of feels that, but also we're fans.
Sure.
Our emotions run a little bit higher than the guys who have to do the job.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, you know me.
Yep.
You know how much I love this game. We get just as emotional. Mm-hmm. And I understand it being sometimes people may misconstrue players' emotions on the sidelines and stuff when games, when the fan emotions doesn't match up with maybe what the fans are seeing on the field. Sometimes it's easy to say, oh, well, he doesn't care. I promise you, every guy that's about to report to camp tomorrow cares about winning the Super Bowl in February this year, right? So, it's not nobody's just showing up for the fun of it, right? Especially not here in Buffalo.
No.
But I think to answer the first part of the question, I think pressure is a privilege. That's a great quote that I heard a long time ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. And I think it's helped me deal with pressure when it comes along, or what I think is pressure, or maybe just being anxious and excited. But I think it's something we've dealt with for a couple years now. But I don't know if it's pressure as much as I think anytime you got 17 taking snaps from under center, you've got a chance. And I think I'm going to have that belief probably till he's done playing.
Billie Jean King was the one who said pressure is privilege. And I'll tell you what, as somebody who works a high-stress job and manages people, you're correct. It's almost like it's special when you're the person who people look to for results, because it means that you've done something. Like, you've proven that you're capable of delivering, so now people look to you with an expectation. If people don't have expectations of you, then there's no pressure. Right?
Absolutely.
When you're the rookie long snapper trying to make a team and Garrison Sanborn's here, everyone goes, we don't have any expectations of that guy. Then when he's gone and you're the guy, everyone goes, he better make that snap. You better make that snap.
That's exactly right.
And you had to learn, and you were kind of forged in the fire of that crucible. And now here you are years later, the elder statesman of this Bills locker room. And so it's really cool that you get to have this moment where you're now taking on this leadership role with the team. And do you have any personal goals for 2023? Like, as you look at what you want this season to be. I mean, first and foremost, I hope one of them is getting a fucking tackle this year. I mean, come on, get one. Do something.
I had one last year.
I know you did. And I was hoping for two, and I was like, come on, you can't give me two.
Yeah, I think, goal every year till it happens. And even when it does happen, it's still going to be a goal. I think is to be the all-pro guy.
Yep. How does that get decided? We saw that tweet.
Yeah, it's 50 AP voters. I'm sure you can look them up. I'm not sure who they are. I don't know their extent of knowledge about long snapping. But they have voted Morgan Cox, I think they've had AP for 3 years now. AP voting on long snapper. I think Morgan Cox won it I think I can't remember who won it last year. Anyway, Pro Bowl is hit or miss. It's a little bit of a lot of people, snappers included, are a little skeptical of how it's actually voted on. There's not a lot of people that honestly believe it's a third fans, a third players, and a third coaches.
Okay.
So take that
Sure.
how you will. But Pro Bowl would be awesome, and it would be great to experience that. But I think I would be more proud with All Pro, first team All Pro next to my name.
I still wish you could have that fumble recovery that Mike Tolbert stole from you. I still wish you could have that back.
I know. Every episode. I hope that I wish for the rest of eternity, as long as this podcast continues to operate, that you and I come on as a guest. I hope that you continue to dangle that over my head.
It's not dangling it over your head. You did so.
Well, Blake has a fumbled recovery.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Leave it to Christopher.
He's also 1-6 against me, so
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that December game probably, too. He probably felt a certain kind of way after that. Watching you hold the game-winning kick.
the December game and the January game. I mean,
Yeah, but with that one specifically, watching you get to hold the game-winning kick as it goes through the uprights, and then you're like, hey, little brother, this is just how it works. Hey, sorry.
and then we announced what kind of baby we were having.
You guys had the best day. You really did.
It was great. No, it was fantastic.
One of the things I love is that I've gotten to know you more over the years. You've been a friend of ours since you arrived here in Buffalo. I've been close to you. We're now business partners.
Yes, we are.
We've now joined up. We are now partners in Q42 Barbecue. Regardless of what Mark Gaughan at the Buffalo News might have you think, there is no Q like a pool Q 42. That doesn't exist. And Reid, I'm going to try to be nice. I'm going to try.
We'll save that for
that's a whole other thing.
Unrecorded.
So, in any event, we're business partners in this joint barbecue venture. We're also partners in this Grills Mafia thing. I love it. I'm supporting the brand. I love everything that we're doing together. We have the steak competition coming up August 5th. You're going to be there to give away the prizes. Guys, it's a steak competition. It's basically, do you think you can cook? Because I competed in the SCA. We talked about it here on the podcast. I walked headfirst into a wood chipper against professionals. And that was fun. Again, you talk about privilege, finding privilege in like those high pressure situations. I'm happy that in that pressure situation, I still put out the thing that I wanted to. It didn't go my way, but I understand these guys work the circuit, but I was right there with them. And so that makes me feel better about what I put out. You guys, we're trying to build something here in Western New York. And I know that you personally have talked about wanting to build a lasting, because, you're, again, the elder statesman, you're trying to build a lasting impression here in Buffalo, New York. You're trying to leave your footprint here in the city. And this Grills Mafia venture of yours is just a part of it. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so, like you mentioned, partners now in Q42. It was an opportunity that, I could not pass up, and happy to, super excited to be a part of. Excited about the competition coming up. I think what I'm most excited about is really just putting together a great group of people to kind of develop that Western New York barbecue society. That's kind of our main goal, tied in with obviously the Grills Mafia stuff and the charitable side of things. But as you mentioned, the competitions, the classes, the teachings, the videos, all the stuff that comes along with a total barbecue experience. And then, honestly, a huge part of it was Iman is obviously our head creator.
He's the guy. He's the guy. He's the dude behind Q42.
That's right. he's made the rubs and sauces that we currently have up for sale right now, and his rub is the best, voted the best rub in New York.
The best rub in New York State and most of the Northeast.
Rub in New York State. Yeah, I mean that doesn't come by accident, and B, I think that shows what he's capable of and kind of what we've got in store. And I think it's going to be great. My
thing was getting to just work with you in this thing of like, we're going to learn and teach, and we're going to try to educate people on what barbecue is, the science behind it. It's not a mystery. It's not anything that anybody should. There's a lot of almost, I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but it's one of those things where people go, oh, I could do this, and I can buy a bunch of fancy products, and I can make them look cool for Instagram. Instead, what we're going to teach people how to do is buy the stuff you would buy at Aldi's and Save-A-Lot and Tops and Wegmans and turn it into something that you'd be proud to serve your in-laws if you were trying to impress them. That's the level of technique we want to be able to teach and show people. And at the same time, anybody can make a rub. Anybody can make a sauce. What we want to do is bring a real experience to barbecue to the Western New York community. And that's the idea of Q40.
Absolutely.
That's the idea of it. And I'm happy that we get to work on this together. And I guess I love the fact that I get to also help out, like through the Grills Mafia charities, we get to help people in the process of pursuing that. It's all going to be like, I'm excited. I was excited when I joined, and I was excited when you joined. I was pumped you wanted to be a part of this. So guys, our first major event, August 5th, it's a steak competition. It's literally backyard rules. What do you want to cook? Come and cook it your way. The judges will judge it based on texture, based on taste, and there's cash prizes. Reid's got a signed jersey, and Reid will be there to give the awards for the ceremony. It's going to be a great day. Check it out, q42bbq.com. If you want to enroll, or if you're interested in being a judge, we have volunteer spots open for judging. It's going to be a great day. I guess the thing I'll close with, Nate Geary claims that he is ready to hold a snap.
Oh my goodness.
Are you ready to snap at Nate Geary? Or do you think he'll balk again? Because you saw the video. The video that's hit Twitter, guys. I will retweet it on our feed at Rockpile Report in case you're interested. Nate Geary tried to replicate outside of a downtown.
Talking about Nate Geary, and you grabbed a whiskey bottle.
Because I was like, I need a drink for this. So Nate replicated outside of a Buffalo bar last summer what his holding technique was going to be. Because he's the best holder in Western New York. He said it himself on this podcast. So he replicated what his technique would be. And Reid saw the video once and goes, how big does he think a football is? Can we?
I mean, he was holding his fingers lower than your Montucky can right there.
It's bad. So Reid, is there any concern that you might hurt him with a snap? Do we need our lawyer to draft a waiver? Because I'll make it. I'll make it happen.
He may need to sign the waiver.
That's what I mean. We'll make him sign a waiver. I'll get one drawn up.
Yeah, perfect. I'm sure he'd be on board. I'm just excited. I'm excited to see it happen.
You think?
Allegedly.
I hope he sticks around this time. He's going to flake again, I think.
Scale of 1 to 10. If you snap a ball at Nate Geary, do you think he can catch it and place it?
I don't know. That's a yes or no. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I feel like he's going to bring like receiver gloves. I feel like he's that kind of guy.
He probably should. I mean, if he's interested,
he's going to bring some spider tack with him on his glove.
Wait, he's not a New York Yankee. He wouldn't do that. Oh! And with that...
Yeah, you're right. Touche.
Reid, we love you. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find all the Grills Mafia stuff, where they can follow you on social media, and where they can follow everything we have going on at Q42.
Yep, so Grills Mafia is at Grills Mafia on Twitter and Instagram. Myself, Reid Ferguson on Instagram, Snapflow69 on Twitter. And of course, I'll spot the Q42 at Q42 Barbecue, QUE for those that might be confused.
Who saw the Buffalo News article today?
Q is in barbecue. That's at Q42 Barbecue BBQ on Twitter and Instagram. So
guys,
there you go.
Guys, this has been great, but for tonight, we got to get out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. That's Reid Ferguson. And this has been your Rockpile Report.